So let's jump into it. So the first thing is, what do you value? Let's figure that out. Now, Matthew Kelly in that book goes through a beautiful, genius way to figure out what you value in your life. So that's the first thing, is figuring out, what do you value? What is the most important thing to you? What's the next important thing? All right, so here's what you do. You list down all the things that you like to do, things in your life that you enjoy, things that you find meaningful, whatever it is. And you can stratify it very finely, but, just in general categories. So let's say, for example, just brainstorm. You like spending, time, what that is like. I can hardly read that. I'm not that good on my iPad writing stuff out, so I'll slow down. Time with friends. Another one, say working out. Let's say you like to work out, working because you like health. And then, let's say you're a golfer, so you like golf. You like, to say, college sports. How about time with family? How about relationship with spouse? It's important to you. How about, say, your spiritual life, like prayer. This is prayer, church, all those things. You like, you have your work life, whatever that is. Maybe you're a big fan of, you like investing and looking up companies, things like that. Let's say you like going out to eat. So let's just kind of limit to that. There could be just a ton of things you can put in there. I don't care how many you put in there. So let's say you got this work. Oh, okay. Let's say you work, but you also have, you're doing the insurance thing on the side, insurance business. You're doing it part-time, right? You want to ramp it up to full-time, but you're not quite there yet. So let's say these are just things that are important to you. Time with friends, working out, health, golf. You like plugging in, watching college sports, basketball, football. You like spending time with your family, meaning, what I mean by family is immediate, like kids and wife, relationship with spouse, time with your spouse, your spiritual life, God, this is your God time, work, investing, going out to eat, insurance business. Oh, let's put Netflix. You like binging on Netflix. By the way, has anyone watched Landman? I like binging at midnight to 3 a.m. in the morning. So anyway, I know. Okay, so these are things that you find are important in your life that you have fun doing or whatever. It could be all kinds of things, but I just want to do this. So the second exercise, now that you've listed these things and just brainstorm, is now what you do is you do what I call the A/B test. So you take the first thing, like time with friends, and then you compare it to working out. So which one would you rather do between those two things? What's more important to you, time with friends or working out? So let's just compare time with friends. Well, let's say you really like working out more than time with friends. So you put a check mark. Then you compare time with friends with golf. And let's say, yeah, I like golf because I do spend time with my friends. Time with friends versus college sports. Yeah, I like time with my friends. Time with friends versus time with family. Family takes precedence. Time with friends versus relationship with spouse. My spouse takes precedence. Time with friends versus my spiritual life. Yeah, God comes before time with friends. Time with friends and work. Well, I have to work, make money. Time with friends versus investing. I like investing. Time with friends, going out to eat. Yeah, I can combine that, but time with friends. Insurance business, part-time. Yeah, that's important. The Netflix versus time with friends. I like hanging out with my friends. Okay, so that's the first go around. You compared this first thing with everything below it. So you take the second thing, working out. So working out versus golf. I like working out. Working out versus college sports. I like working out. Working out versus time with family. Yeah, I like time with family. Working out versus relationship with spouse. Working out versus God. Working out versus work. Well, I gotta work. Working out versus investing. I like working out. Working out versus going out to eat. I like working out. Working out versus insurance business. Insurance business is important. Working out versus Netflix. Yeah, I need to work out. Okay, then you take golf. Golf versus college sports. I'd rather golf. Golf versus time with family. Time with family. Golf versus spouse. Golf versus God, golf versus work. Well, I have to work. Golf versus investing. I'd rather play golf. Golf versus going out to eat. I'd rather play golf. Golf versus insurance business. I really want to get my business off the ground. Golf versus Netflix. I'd rather play golf. Okay, now you go college sports. College sports versus time with family. Time with family. College sports versus spouse. College sports versus God. College sports versus work. I gotta work. College sports versus investing. I'd rather spend time investing. College sports versus going out to eat. I like going out to eat. College sports, insurance business. I gotta do my insurance business. College sports versus Netflix. I'd rather do college sports. Okay, now time with family. Time with family, kids, and wife versus spouse. Well, the way that I read the Bible, the foundation of your family is you and your spouse. You can build your everything else around that. So now I'm putting my values in there. Okay. But just for sake of argument, let's just say spouse. Yeah, I mean, yours might be different. Like you do it for you. Time with kids versus God. Yeah, God's my priority. Time with kids versus work. Well, I got to work, but this is where you have to kind of time with kids versus investing. I'd rather spend time with my kids and wife. Time with kids versus going out to eat. Time with kids and wife versus insurance business. Time with kids and family. Time with kids versus Netflix. Time with kids. Okay. Spouse. Spouse versus God. God. Spouse versus work. No. Spouse. Spouse versus investing. Spouse versus going out to eat. Like, these can overlap, but spouse versus insurance business. Spouse versus Netflix. Spouse. Okay, God versus work. No, God versus investing. God versus going out to eat. God versus insurance business. God versus Netflix. God. Okay, work versus investing. Gotta work versus going out to eat. Work versus insurance business. Oh man, I'm in the insurance business so I can get out of my work, but I can't blow work off because it's paying the bills right now. And then work versus Netflix. Work's a priority. Investing versus going out to eat. I like to study investing. Investing versus insurance business. This is going to get me out of my job. Insurance. Investing versus Netflix. Investing. Going out to eat versus insurance business. Insurance business. Going out to eat versus Netflix. I'd rather go out to eat. And then insurance business versus Netflix. Insurance business. All right. So now you have figured out what you deem most important, right? How do you do that? You count the number of check marks. So let's see what God says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I think God is number 1. Let's see what spouse is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, let's just put the number next to them first. Put it in red. 3. Time with friends is 3. Working out is 6. Golf is 5, I think. College sports is 1. Time with family is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Relationship with spouse is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we know God is 11. Work is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Investing is 4. Going out to eat is 2. Insurance business part-time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Netflix is 0. Okay, so now what you do is you reorder them. So let's just reorder them on here. Put it in green. So number 1 is God. Number 2 is spouse. Number 3 is work. Number 4, time with family. And look, you can kind of do value judgments. I mean, there are only one check mark apart. Next one, insurance business. 7, 6 is working out. 5 is golf. 4 is investing. 3 is friends. 2 is going out to eat. And 1 is college sports. Netflix is 0. So here's what Matthew Kelly says. Matthew Kelly says that the top 3 or 4 are the ones that really mean something to you. It can be 5. Let's just kind of look at God, spouse, work, insurance. It's just working out. Let's just look at these things because these are the ones that are most important to you, the ones that you find most fulfilling in your life. That's going to make the biggest difference in your life. So here's the thing. A lot of frustration that you go through in operating your life day to day, you run into frustrations. And I think the source of that frustration, not in any individual thing that you're having trouble with, but it's your time is not spent on the things you value, right? You're not doing the things that you value the most, that speaks to you, that fulfills you because you're doing what you value. It's doing the things we don't value. It's taking care of emergencies that don't mean anything, right? These frustrations. And by creating a schedule, basically that's what we're going to do, that feeds the things you love and care about, you'll have much more fulfilled life. You're going to have a guilt-free schedule. Everything's going to be so much better. So Alex, how do I go and, how do I use this? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to, let's erase all this. Now that we figured it. Are you guys tracking with me?
Yeah, definitely.
Like Matthew Kelly is much more eloquent and he goes through a similar example. Look, yours is what it is. It doesn't got to be mine. Personally, I think God should be up there, obviously. So let's just take a look at this. Now, here's what you do is you honor your priorities by scheduling the thing that means most to you in your schedule. Now, here's the thing. You ever hear the thing that he or she's so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good? In other words, even though God's number 1 in your priority, doesn't mean that out of 168 hours, you should spend 68 hours doing God things. Okay. It's not that. It's how do you prioritize your calendar? So there's a concept coming out of the 7th Habits of Highly Successful People. That book's foundational book. It talks about putting the big rocks in first, the most important things you should focus on first, and that's what you do for your calendar. So let's kind of create a basic calendar. So let's just start the calendar Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm better at a whiteboard, not so good on the iPad. Hey, this is your life right here. So let's just, let's take 8 hours. Let's say you sleep 8 hours. So you start your day, let's say it's 6 a.m. So that means you went to bed at 10 p.m. This is 10 p.m., 6 a.m. And let's block. So this is 12 noon. This is 6. So 6 a.m., 12 noon, 6 p.m. Should be obvious, and then 10 p.m. Okay. So roughly you have, 6 hours here, 6 hours here, right? And then 4 hours. So that's 12, 16 hours. Yeah, 16 hours. You got 8 hours sleep. They say that you should get the sleep that you need, because if you don't get the sleep you need, then you're a waste. You're not as effective, right? And I believe in that. So some of you need 10 hours. Some of you only need 6. You adjust accordingly to what your body says you need. Okay, so is everyone with me so far? I don't have any okay, so let's just put God time in red. So let's schedule your God time. So let's say 6 in the morning. Let's say you do a 15-minute morning prayer every day. I'm really big on consistency in prayer. You got to do it every day at the same time. It's the discipline of prayer. I think your prayer life is one of the most important things that will help you in every aspect of your life. You devote time to prayer to God, He will give you and order your day properly and give you the time to do everything else. But the minute you take away time from God, it's not going to go so good for you. I promise you that, right? And then let's go evening devotional, like whatever you need to do. Maybe, then Sunday, let's say you have church at here, like maybe you go to 8 a.m. Mass or church service or whatever. And let's say you do Wednesday, you do Wednesday service. So let's say it's at right here. So this is service. So let's just keep it simple. So this is your time, evening prayer. I don't want to go into what mine is because it'll freak you out, because I do spend and by the way, I'm not bragging. Okay, I've really developed my prayer life in such a big way. So let's just start there. Okay, look, man, if I can get you praying morning and evening, if you're not already, I think I've won that battle, against Satan. All right, so time with spouse. Let's put that in green, spouse time. It's important. So let's say let's say date night is Friday night right here. So it's date night with your spouse. And then let's say you do a game plan. So this is important. Actually, this is really important. So you want to spend last part of your evening planning your week with your spouse. So this is planning, because the way you should do this is with your spouse. Your spouse knows when they have you with the family, when they don't. And if they're involved in helping you create your schedule, then you can create a schedule that they're invested in. So they don't make you feel guilty, because they know exactly when you're supposed to be working. They know exactly when you're supposed to be dialing the phone for your insurance business. They know everything because they were involved in putting your schedule together, right? So let's just throw that in there. And there's other things like you want to have lunch. Let's say you like to spend lunchtime with your spouse. So this is, spouse time, all right. So those are just examples. Now work, put that in blue. Let's say you have a full-time job. So you work from, let's say 8 to 5, but you take lunch at 12. Okay, so this is what you owe your employer. Now, I'm not big on you ripping your employer off by, giving a half-butt effort at work. This is what I did. I still worked, and I gave my employer the hours they were paying me for. So I got my work time in, and then family time. So let's put that in green, okay? Because it's sort of like the time of spouse, but family time. So let's say that your wife likes to have you, home for dinner with the kids. So let's say you can do that, 3 times a week, just because you're trying to do your insurance business. But you tell your wife, hey, I can have dinner here, dinner with the family here. And then let's say you like to help your kids with homework. So let's take this little sliver here. So when you help kids with homework, right? And then family time, let's just say Sundays, family time. And I mean, you are spending time with your family. You're doing stuff with them, whatever. So we've got now insurance business. Okay, so here's the thing that I'm going to put it in black. So the most important important things you can plug into is our Zoom calls. Okay. So our Zoom calls are Monday nights. Let's say your East Coast time. So our Zoom calls are here. Got our Wednesday Zoom call here. And then we do a Thursday. Now we've got Alliance calls on Wednesdays. And you can maybe listen in a little bit on those, but whatever. And then on Fridays, but you're working. So what you do is on the Wednesday call, let's say you spend Saturday night catching up on all the Zoom calls that you missed from the Alliance calls during the daytime. So you spent, it's important that you listen to those calls. You're going to learn stuff on those. So those calls, you're going to spend Saturday, okay, late night, where you go to bed, or you do your prayer time, catching up on all the video calls that you weren't able to make because you're working. Now, the other part of the insurance business is booking appointments, right? So where do you book appointments? Well, let's say you book appointments at lunchtime, and you book appointments after you get home from work before dinner, okay, because that's dinner. And then you book appointments before our Monday meeting, and you book appointments for Tuesday. So it's appointment time, and then appointments. Appointments. And let's say you squeeze in dialing here, like the same thing, book. And, maybe you don't have time to run appointments, but you dial with the time you have. And then you dial until 9 p.m. And then appointments. Then Friday you're dialing, and Saturday is when you can book all your spillover appointments. So now you got your dialing and your appointments. You got your time. You're going to catch up on Zoom calls, and then you like to work out. So where do we fit that in? Well, I don't have another color, but let's put that in blue. So let's say you like to work out 3 times a week. So this is your workout time. Let's say it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday morning. So you got 4 workouts in. Do you see what you're doing? Now you can make adjustments. Here's the beauty of it is if there's an emergency that comes up, you move your dial time, maybe later on Friday, you adjust, maybe you take this time, date night, you move date night to Saturday, and you dial for appointments for Saturday morning. Do you see what you're doing? You're taking control. You're doing the things that are important to you. All these other things you can, maybe fit in, but those aren't as important to you as the things up here, right? Because you're feeding yourself spiritually, you're feeding your family, you're working, you're providing for your family, and you're building your insurance business to work your way out of having to do all of this. Imagine when you flush your stupid job, all these turn into white spaces that you can book more appointments, you spend more time with your family, right? This is guilt-free. And then, Alex, but I like to chill out and just veg. Awesome. Let's put veg time, put it in red. So your veg time, you like to veg here, veg out, veg. So you can put veg time, okay? You like to check Facebook, and eat Cheetos in front of the TV. Well, do you see what I'm saying? Like, here, let's put it this way, okay? There's another way to look at it. And I don't know if I can. Okay. Well, so I'm going to be a little bit facetious, but I'm not sure how to do this. So I'm going to just put it, right? So you have 168 hours in a week, right? Is that correct? Like you guys, I always say that number because
Yes, that is correct.
All right. So not to be gross, but let's say you do 8 hours of sleep. So 8 times 7 is 56. So minus 56. It's 2. Now you're down to 112. You take out all your sleep time. How long does it take to eat every day? Let's say half hour, 15 minutes for breakfast, half hour for lunch, an hour for dinner. Again, I'm just being kind of crazy, but what is that? Hour 45.75. Times 7, 12.25 minus 412. So now you got basically 99.7. Let's just round it up to 100 hours. Okay, now you have 100 hours. So you take away your eating time. So you took care of eating. Now let's take away, how long does it take to do your business? I'm talking, there's the opposite of eating, right? Going to the bathroom, preparing yourself for the day, let's just say hour and a half. You think that's enough for hygiene and for taking care of business? Let's just say 1.5, right? 1.5 times, I know, what can I say? Minus 10 and a half, let's round to 11. So 100 minus 11 hours, that's 89 hours. Okay, so you took care of pooping, peeing, getting ready in the morning. You took care of sleep. You took care of eating, right? So your basic necessities of life to live, is there anything else? So you got 89 hours a week to allocate your life to. Can you imagine what you could do with a solid 89 hours that you can put to, look, recreation's important. That's why I say, man, you need recreation time, right? Time with family, time with God. You work your calendar every dadgum week like this. There's no way you can lose. Okay. Does this make sense? Is everyone kind of following me here? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone already do this? I'm actually kind of curious.
No, I do it, but not that extensive. My calendar is just ABN focused.
Yeah, so I would suggest that you schedule your life, your entire life, everything that means something to you. Don't be frivolous with the time that God has given you. When you wake up in the morning, you thank God he gave you another day. When you go to bed at night, pray that he protects you that evening and that you get another chance to serve him. The last thing you need to be is frivolous with your time, because you don't know what you're going to have tomorrow. I have to live every minute of my life towards doing the things that mean something to me. And when I can do that, I will live I'll live a fulfilled life. See, happiness, if you try to chase happiness is always fleeting. But if you chase fulfillment with the things you love and care about, the things that mean something to you, you will be joyful, right? The thing about spiritual joyfulness is that you can be joyful when things aren't going great, because you have the faith, and be joyful that God is putting you through the challenge so you can become better, that you can rely on him more. A lot of times we're tested because God wants to remind you that you need to rely 100% on him, okay? He'll get you through everything. His mercifulness is unabounding. So anybody have any questions on this approach? Like I said, read that book and it'll make more sense to you. And here's the other thing with your calendar is open it up to your spouse so they can put important things for the family on there, but it should be planned together, in my opinion. Yeah, you should. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just throw this out here? It's just like, we've actually, I kind of went through this before, and I've actually tried to apply this, and I'll tell you, it takes discipline. At least for me, it takes discipline, because I'll do it, and then all of a sudden I'll see myself leaking into letting other things interfere with that. How do we help ourselves keep from doing that?
Well, yeah, it's called discipline. It's living your calendar. Now, look, if there are emergencies, you have to take care of emergencies, but then you got to move the blocks in other areas that you can make up for it. Okay. But here's the other thing that I probably didn't mention, I failed to mention, is that here's a really good, it's like budgeting, right? Budgeting, when you do a budget, you need to figure out where your money's going. So before creating a budget, you need to audit how you're spending your money. So you really ought to go through a week or a month of writing down where you're spending your money, right? At the end of the month, you find out that you're, eating out at restaurants, you're spending $500 doing that, right? And, you spend this much on this, or like frivolous things, and you're realizing, holy crap, this isn't working, right? Because now you know. So then you create a budget that you can live with, but you don't know how to budget until you know how you're spending your money. Same thing with your time. So I would challenge you to go through a week of documenting what you're doing with your time. Like, write it down. Here's kind of the part is, you're going to think, oh my gosh, I shouldn't binge Netflix. So you're not going to do it. But if you naturally are going to do it, then write it down and do it. Do how you're doing. Don't make any changes. Go through a whole week and it'll be enlightening to you. So then when you put your schedule together, you're going to understand why you do what you do. Now, the best time managers block their calendar in 15-minute increments. So let's say, this task can be 45 minutes. Cool. So you book 45 minutes and then, this task is probably the most 15 minutes. You book another 15. It's that granular to where if you can book your calendar like that, you are going to be the most productive. You are not going to waste any time. But even if you're 80% there, you are 100% better than you were before. So efficiency and getting better at it is something that you can work to. But if you don't start, you'll never get anywhere, right? You're going to forever be a slave to the emergencies in your life that won't mean anything at the end of your life, right? So it is 9:30. I didn't realize it was going to take this long. Anybody got any comments, questions, suggestions, insights? Anybody? Well, thanks everybody for plugging in, and I'll try to tell you the topic at each reminder for that week, what we're going to talk about, like I did for this reminder message. And hopefully this is fruitful to you. We're going to move into other areas that are practical in building your business. So hopefully this will be much more applicable. Okay, so thanks everybody for plugging in. God bless, and let's rock and roll, man. And by the way, part of my prayer every evening is praying for you, and morning. So I pray for you guys in the evening and the morning. So know that I'm praying for you like crazy. So anyway, I hope that gives you some level of solace. Okay. God bless, man.